Hello and welcome to Inside Out, your audio adventure in the great outdoors. My name's Neil Warren, and each episode I bring you topical interviews and take you to some of the most beautiful locations around the UK. It's lovely to see that we have listeners from around the world, and so whether you're listening for the first time or returning, welcome. Don't forget to rate and review us on whatever service you use to listen. It really helps more people to discover us. In this episode, we reflect on how our love for nature begins. We look at how children connect with nature as we speak to an award-winning outdoor activity centre in Somerset and a filmmaker based in Suffolk. We'll take you to a Cornish Wonderland to see how they're working to become more accessible and invite you to take part in the competition raising funds for our charity initiative Countryside Mobility. So put on your boots and join me for our latest adventure on Inside Out. Now, if you're a regular listener, you'll know that spring is my favourite time of year as trees and flowers come to life and colour returns to our gardens and countryside. The last year's seen people placing a particular importance on their gardens, and one Southwest company has been turning this interest into good causes in recent years, something to do with a golden spade. Well, to explain all, I'm joined by Steph Dennis from HCT Turf. Well, Steph, could you start off by giving me a little introduction about HCT Turf, if I can say it? Tell me a little bit about the company.
Okay, so we started in 1973. It was my father and his business partner, and we started off cutting turf in farmers' fields, and then later on we started growing our own turf from seed, and it's just gone from strength to strength. We supply lots of house builders now, as well as householders and other companies.
That's great. I mean, looking out on my garden, I could certainly benefit from your turf. It looks awful. So,
well, we give advice as well about lawn care. So lots of things you can do even with an existing garden.
This would certainly give you a challenge, I'll tell you that. Anyway, let's look at the idea of golden spades. What's the idea of the golden spade? I presume it's not something you stock.
No, that's the award. So what we're wanting is for people to share with us their pictures of their gardens, beautiful pictures, and we'll put them out on our social media. And then from that, we would choose our favourite and award the Golden Spade Trophy, which is a little golden spade on a stand. And the winner would also get a hamper of Devon produce, food and drink. Wow. And in the process, hopefully, we get to see lots of wonderful gardens.
I would love to say I'd be entering, but I won't. I won't be entering that.
I was going to say my garden isn't terribly smart, but I think part of the idea is that we've probably all got a pretty flower or a spot that we're quite proud of. So it doesn't have to be the whole garden. It could just be a corner of it.
Oh, that's good news. Because, I think you're right there. Because at the moment, as I said, our garden doesn't look very good. But there's certainly a tree at the moment that's blossoming. It looks beautiful. So I think you're right. Yeah, there's always something. And so how does it work? Do people send a physical photo to you or is it a digital photo? How does it work?
You can send a physical photo. That's fine. There's an entry form on the website. But lots of people are very electronic these days, and you can send it by using a hashtag on Facebook or Instagram. Use the hashtag I love my garden, or there's an entry form to attach a file on our website.
What sort of thing are you looking for? I guess that's a little bit of a help for people who are maybe thinking of entering. What sort of thing do you tend to go for?
Any picture in your garden. So it might be that your whole garden makes a lovely picture, but if you want it to be your friends and family enjoying the garden, that would be great as well. Or, as I say, just one beautiful flower that you're really proud of, or your pet's asleep under a shady tree, anything that just makes you happy when you look in your garden. Or, if you've got a balcony or a window box instead, that would be equally lovely.
Oh, that sounds great. And it's for a good cause, isn't it?
Yeah, so what we've tried to do is benefit a charity whilst we're doing this. So this year we've teamed up with Living Options Devon to support their Countryside Mobility initiative.
Yes, I have a vested interest.
Yes, yeah. So we're hoping that for each picture each picture that we receive, we'll be donating £1 to this cause, and we're hoping that we can reach the £1,000 target and be able to help refurbish one of the trampers in that scheme.
That's right, yes, because we've got some of our older trampers, the all-terrain mobility scooters that people can hire to explore the countryside. They're showing their age a little bit, so it'd be lovely to refurbish one of those and make sure it can keep on showing people beautiful places. So it's a win-win all round in terms of sharing these beautiful photos and also helping people to enjoy the countryside who may not otherwise be able to. So fantastic to be teaming up with you with this competition. So we'll put some more information about where people can enter in the description. I guess to finish off though, Steph, we're going to start asking people a kind of question with each of our interviews, and kind of put together a bucket list of must-sees. And I just wondered, for you, is there a special place, a favourite place in the countryside or coast of this country that's particularly special to you?
I really love the open countryside and the hedgerows of Devon. Having grown up here in Devon, that's what really does it for me. We're so lucky being here, and it's just all beautiful. Absolutely,
and I can certainly say over the last year, I think we've all appreciated what's on our doorstep that much more. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Steph. I hope lots of people will enter the competition. I know I have a vested interest in that happening, but it sounds like a great idea, and it will be lovely to see all those photos.
Yes, really, really looking forward to it again this year.
Thanks ever so much, Steph.
Thank you.
Now, Inside Out's all about our love for the outdoors, but that got me thinking, where and when does that love begin? For some it might be on family walks, but for many children it's school outings and particularly extended stays at outdoor centres. These really can be transformative times, but these centres are currently facing real challenges, and I thought it'd be really good to speak to one of the outdoor centres that I've had the pleasure to have contact with on a number of occasions. It's an award-winning centre based in Somerset, and Matt, you've very kindly joined us to tell us a little bit about Mill on the Brew, which is where you're based. Do you want to start by saying, giving us a little introduction as to where you are and a little bit about the centre?
Yeah, hi Neil. So, where do I start?
Well, a bit of history maybe, because it's an interesting history, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so next year is going to be our 40th anniversary.
Wow.
My parents, Tony and Tricia Rawlinson Plant, started it 39 years ago, and the whole concept was that Dad was used to be in the army, and he was also a mountain leader and just loved being outside, as also Mum did. And I was actually born in the Outer Hebrides.
Wow.
And when I was born, there wasn't an awful lot to do, apparently. And when occasionally we had visitors coming up all the way up there, they wanted to do something. So Mum and Dad used to take them for walks and take them down to the beach, and they saw the benefit of people just being outside. And this was kind of early 70s. So they had that sort of idea in the 70s, and we moved down to Bruton. And they just had this idea. They didn't have the land, but we knew a family who did. And this family had just inherited this small farm, and were looking for other areas to make a bit of money, really. So they went into partnership. It was very ad hoc. I remember doing this promotional sort of photographs. It was freezing cold. It was actually daylight today, and we were pretending that it was summer. It's shorts, t-shirt on, and we're in this inflatable sort of raft thing, dinghy. On the River Brew, looking like it was beautiful summer. I think it was about a week before Mill on the Brew started for our first summer camp. We had the horrendous flood. Mum said that she even took a booking. She was wading through the farmhouse up to her thighs in horrible flood water, and the phone went. And so she picked up the phone, and someone said, "Oh, do you do such and such or whatever?" She said, "Yes, yeah, we can take the booking, not a problem."
Well, I mean, what a start. I mean, bring us up to the present day. It's slightly different now. I mean, it's really transformed in many different ways. Tell us about the centre now. What does it look like, and what do you offer in normal times, at least?
Yeah, normal times. So wow, it's massively changed in terms of space. We have a beautiful valley with the River Brue running through our land. It's 25 acres. We have now 124 beds plus teachers' accommodation in essentially 3 buildings, plus also a campsite that we open up and have these lovely ridge tents for the summer. We offer, in terms of activities, you can kind of divide it up into possibly 3 main sections. You've kind of got the developmental aspect, so the team building point. You've then got the kind of fun, adrenaline, more theme park, but it's great. It's great to have a bit of fun these days. So we've got a huge, 2 huge zip wires of over 240 meters going right across the valley. And then also you've got the kind of environmental aspects as well, which I think kind of singles us out in quite a few ways. So, just animal feed. We've got a group of children today we've had for 4 hours, and they've been learning about the animals. So we've got some Lincoln long wool rare breed sheep, and we've got a donkey and some hens and some cats, and learning about animals. And then they've gone into our organic vegetable garden, and they've learned about why we do it organically and what we grow. And then they pulled up a leek or 2 and chopped it up, and then actually they're just eating it for lunch. We see it as a tool to have fun, a tool to learn about each other, and a tool to learn about the environment, all at the same time.
Fantastic. And that's all to do with connections, really, isn't it? And I think I'd be really interested to hear from you how you feel that transforms the children and young people that come to you, that in particular the connection with the outdoors.
It's not to be understated. And I think the difficulty sometimes that the outdoor industry faces is that it's quite often is not quantifiable. But, and this is no exaggeration, we have had children, especially from inner city, or actually you don't have to be deprived to be, you don't have to live in an inner city to be deprived, but deprived children who come down here and their jaws drop when they see the space that they can run down, let alone getting really good food. And we've had, it's kind of why I do it. And I think at the moment I'm thinking, all those children had a really rough time over the last 12 months. And I just think that them being able to perceive, to have some fun, to go, and who wouldn't want to go and jump in the River Brue? I just met 2 girls, literally as I was about to start this, and they were looking a little bit cold, should we say? Okay, so they were dry. You can see they were dry. They obviously had some food, and so you're looking a little bit cold, girls. Why is that? Oh, we jumped in the river. You did what? So they were canoeing, and they opted to jump in the river, and one of them jumped in twice. And today is not the most warm day, is it?
No.
But it gets so much out of it.
And what's the legacy, Matt? What kind of stories do you hear, sort of, from teachers or children, after they've gone home? What impact does it have?
It really has a massive impact. Why does it have a massive impact? Well, first of all, I would say to most adults, can you remember something about your school, something positive about your school? Okay. And so many of them would say, oh, yeah, in year 6, year 5, we went for an outdoor residential trip. Okay. So immediately to me, that's like a big one. So a lot of the time, the kids are more attentive, even, having been with us for 4 or 5 days, they've done exercise, they've been outside, they've had good food. So actually they are more attentive. You see this at the end of the week. They are better at communicating. They're better listeners, because we really put a big thing on that, a real emphasis on that. They're also taking back home an environmental message. And then also they've built, and it's the big thing is confidence, Neil. If you have a child who isn't great at literacy or isn't great at maths, and their confidence is pretty low because they're not academic, and then they come to an outdoor centre, and actually their idea, to get across the bottomless pit, whatever, that's a real winner. Yeah. And everyone starts going, oh yeah, okay, that's great. And he or she immediately will feel really valued.
I mean, it's a cruel irony that, in the last year, when I think all of us have recognised the importance of being outdoors, that centres like yourselves have not been able to operate, or certainly not been able to operate in the way that you would normally. So do you want to tell just briefly a little bit about what's been done over recent months to try to kind of raise the profile of outdoor centres and the need for support and recognition?
We think we are one of the forgotten industries, but we just have had nothing. So this campaign of Save Outdoor Ed began. So that we'd already had 4 months of winter. We went down into lockdown, and we just wanted some certainty about if boarding schools could open, then why couldn't we? And that was our main argument. So it's been, to say the least, tough. It's been really tough. So now the analogy is, I think we're kind of probably running at about 15 miles an hour. And from on the 17th of May, I think we're going to be at about 120 miles an hour. I
mean, just before we finish off, I guess for you, as you've indicated, as your parents as well, the outdoors is a real passion of yours. I mean, do you want to talk about what it means to you, and perhaps is there a particular place that is particularly special to you, that your favourite outdoor location?
Yeah,
I did brief you on this, so I hope you've had a think about where.
It's really hard. Okay, the first bit, why do I do it? Because I just see massive benefits to the children, and also I see huge benefits socially. Also to the parents. It's great. It's fantastic. It's lovely to hear the children now. My favourite outdoor spot, there's a ridge in Glencoe called the Anakeenic Ridge, which basically you've got to go up, you walk up, and you've got to go along the ridge. It's a bit of scrambling, then you've got to come down. You can't go left or right. But when you're at the top of the ridge, you look down into Glencoe and you just see these little cars right down below, and it's the most beautiful day, and it's just stunning.
Well, that's been fantastic. Thank you ever so much for sharing that with us, and it's so good to be reminded of the importance of outdoor centres and how important it is for us to provide that great start for children to connect them with the outdoors and with each other, particularly at the moment. So thank you for reminding us of that, and thank you for your time, Matt. It's really, really good to hear from you, and good to hear in the background some children's voices. Hopefully that will continue as we go on over the next few months.
Thank you. Pleasure.
It was really good to hear that after over a year, Mill on the Brew, along with other outdoor centres, is able to start welcoming visitors again. And as restrictions continue to ease, it's exciting to see new opportunities to enjoy the outdoors emerge. This podcast is brought to you by Countryside Mobility. We're always looking to team up with outdoor attractions to improve access, and last week, our latest partner location, National Trust Antony in Cornwall, started offering tramp hire to their visitors. National Trust Antony is really a beautiful place, and it was recently used as the film location for Walt Disney's Alice in Wonderland, so we're delighted to be working in partnership with them to help make it more accessible. Now, back at the end of March, I recorded an interview as we put the final preparations in place, so do have a listen. I thought it'd be good to take a little glimpse behind the scenes in terms of what's involved in getting set up with one of our new locations. And I have with me here Neville, who's one of the two volunteers, experts, or test pilot, I think you like to not be normally, test pilot, who helps to look in advance of where the tramper can go at a particular site. So Neville, thank you very much for coming along today to do this. Do you want to say a little bit about, well, first of all, why you get involved with this?
The main reason I come along is because I really wholeheartedly support countryside mobility. It enables me to get out to places that I couldn't normally sort of visit and look around. Today we've come down to Antony, and at the moment it's just started to drizzle with rain a little bit, but I'm sure it'll be okay later on. We've basically come down just to make sure that the site is going to be fully accessible and to figure out the best routes for people to get the most enjoyment out of their visit.
That's fantastic, and we look at the whole experience, don't we? So it's the routes, first and foremost. But what else? What other things do we look at?
Well, we're also looking at accessibility of toilets, of any other facilities. It might be cafes or little shops, things like that. It's also helping to make the staff aware of the kind of issues that disabled people might experience during their visit.
And it does vary between different locations, doesn't it, in terms of the kind of things that people will come across that might make things a bit more challenging. So sometimes we're at kind of open countryside locations where there are footpaths, and there you're looking very much at gradients and so on. Here today we're at a different type of location, a historic estate. And what kind of things have we been looking at here at the moment?
Well, today, Neil, we're sort of looking around at sort of some of the enclosed spaces, making sure that the tramper can actually fit through, especially for inexperienced drivers. And that's all part and parcel of the training. These kind of things are pointed out when the training takes place before people actually go out on the tramper.
That's great, yeah. That's one of the things that's really important. And what we do effectively is create a map which shows the routes which are suitable for first-time users, because the tramper is very capable, but what we're looking at is what a first-time user would feel comfortable doing. That's fantastic. And I guess finally, Neville, I mean, you'll have been to lots of places. Do you want to give some of the highlights of places that you've most enjoyed going to, apart from where we are today, of course?
Highlights of where I've been? Well, they're all fantastic sites. It's really hard to sort of nail them down and say which is my favourite. Or Heddon's Mouth, that is absolutely fantastic. It's a place that I could never ever visit unless I was on a tramper, where you can actually go to the top of the cliffs and watch peregrine falcons diving. But today we're at a fantastic country house here just the other side of the Tamar. I think this is going to be a fantastic site for people to come and visit. Some stunning views already, and we've only just started the audit.
That's great. Thank you ever so much, Neville. And I think that shows the real kind of variety that's on offer. So, you can be in wild countryside at one of our locations. And here we are today at a historic estate. And I'm very pleased to say we've got Kat from the National Trust to join us and tell us a little bit about why you're bringing a tramper here. Do you want to say what the thinking is behind that, Kat?
Hi everyone. So I work for the National Trust, and as a charity, just really simply, we're all about improving access to our spaces. We shouldn't be thinking in terms of the National Trust having ownership over things. The National Trust looks after things and conserves things and spaces in order that people can come and visit them, and we want to make that available to as many people as possible.
And so, for those who aren't familiar with National Trust Antony, what is the offer here? What is the experience that people are coming to this location for?
So we are a beautiful little property in southeast Cornwall, and we're a kind of a medium-sized mansion and formal garden, and I like to say we're pocket-sized and perfect. And in terms of getting around on the tramper, we've got a formal garden, lots of magical spaces, unexpected surprises around the garden, beautiful views to wheel up to as well, so quite a varied offer, I think.
That's great, and I'm sure it's going to make a huge difference here, enable visitors who maybe not thought of coming here before to be able to come here, and those that have to be able to access locations at the site that they maybe not previously. So that's great. We're really delighted to be working with you, and I'm sure lots of people will come to you and enjoy visiting. We'll put some information in the description with this podcast so that people can have a look at that and come and see you. So thank you very much, Kat, and thank you, Neville, for all your help in terms of making it possible to open these new locations. Thank you. Now, they say that a picture's worth 1,000 words, and given that film and video is made up of many pictures, I'm thinking that my next guest must have created several million or billion words. Holly Brieger is a filmmaker who specialises in producing films about exploring the outdoors. She's also recently started a podcast, Through the Trees, and so I thought she'd be the perfect guest for Inside Out. Welcome, Holly.
Hi, Neil. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's really good to be in touch again. Do you want to start off with telling us a little bit about yourself? I guess starting from where your love for the outdoors comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was lucky enough to grow up in the countryside. And my parents would throw me and my brother outdoors and say, come back when it's dark. And so since then, we have always loved being outdoors. And so from there, for the last 7 years and more, actually, I've been creating films all to do with the outdoors.
What sort of projects do you get involved in, or what have you done in the past, or are you working on at the moment?
So we're at the University of Cumbria up in the Lake District. So I absolutely love the Lake District. So
I was going to say that's a good place to start.
It really, really is. And again, as a youngster, my parents took me up there walking and camping. So we were out in all weathers. And so we just became a bit hardy and we got used to it. And that's, I guess, what made me really want to go there to study. And since then, I've been working for the Outdoor Guide, creating these outdoor films, which is how I met you, Neil. Debbie and I were down in Dorset filming some beautiful accessible walks on the Tramper. And so my love has just grown and grown for walking, nature, and all things outdoors. Yeah.
And I guess the question is, how did you get into the filmmaking side of things? What was the inspiration there?
Well, I have loved telling stories, and to start with, it was through photographs. But then at uni, I learned how to use a camera and how to film and how to edit. And so since then, I realized I actually prefer using video instead of photography. I don't know why, it's just personal preference. So then I developed my skills, and over time, I've just loved sharing stories because it is for people to watch who might not be able to go there or haven't been or have been even, and they can think, oh, I've been up that mountain, I've been along that canal path, I've really enjoyed it. And you can just share more stories. I think it's all about communicating.
That's right, and it always looks so beautiful. I always look at your videos or other people's videos of the outdoors, and it always looks beautiful and fantastic. You think, oh, I wish I could be there. Is it always like that in reality when you're filming outdoors? I'm sure there are probably days when it's not quite that.
No, you're absolutely right. I have actually been very lucky with the weather most of the time. I think Debbie and I were down in Cornwall
I think I'm responsible for one of the exceptions.
She was on one of your trampers, and we got drenched, absolutely drenched. And Debbie was very smiley. Oh, it's so atmospheric. And it was very atmospheric, but it was still absolutely, we obviously had our waterproofs on, but you still got soaked. But 95% of the time we have had decent weather, and that just makes things so much nicer and happier and easier with filming anyway.
Yeah, I should probably explain for those people who haven't listened to one of the earlier episodes. Debbie North is a good friend of both of ours. She's a real passionate advocate for accessibility in the countryside, and so she's worked with the Outdoor Guide, and that's who you've worked with a lot, isn't it, Holly? And you've worked with Julia Bradbury as well? Yeah,
absolutely. So I helped out filming for her first series, Best Walks with a View, and with this second one, Britain's Best Walks. And that was absolutely fantastic, just being able to go around the countryside and seeing how the big TV filmed crews do it, even though it is actually that team was still a smaller team compared to some of the ones you would get. But I worked really well with Julia, and she's a one-take wonder, and we've had a really good time filming all over the UK.
And you yourself sometimes appear in the videos, and I think that sort of links in neatly with another thing that you're very passionate about, which is a project that you've kind of been working on over time, Explore the Woods, and the connection with young people.
Absolutely. So there's often where I get my partner who's got a bit of background in filming as well, and he films me. If I need someone walking and there's no one around, you have to think, oh right, okay, I can get in shot here and I can have a cup of tea here just to finish the shot. But Explore the Woods came about at uni again. The dissertation that we had to do was to connect wildlife. It was to share stories about wildlife. And then for the summer, I went and worked for the Bushcraft Company, and we were living out in the woods, had children coming on residentials, and the kids would get sent to us in white shoes, designer trainers, and they would hate to touch mud. And then by a few days later, they would be completely different children. And I just was astounded by that quick transformation. All you've got to do is take away the barrier, and those kids will get dirty. They will, play and touch, throw mud and create all these types of dens and shelters. And so I then decided to change my dissertation, not just about wildlife, but the direct contact that nature has on a child's life, because I thought, how can this happen so quickly? So that's when Explore the Woods was born. It's a 12-minute documentary all about the benefits of nature, the benefits of children going outside. I talk about forest schools. We talk about the barriers of getting kids outdoors. And since then, so I haven't done much with it, but there's definitely potential. And I'm going freelance this year, and I think I might have something to do with that project, hopefully later in the year.
Well, it's a great video to watch. I had a look at it earlier, and it really does provide that inspiration. And I think particularly at the moment, over the last year, when perhaps children have been rediscovering the outdoors, but also maybe having less connection with one another. I think it's that combination of having connection with nature, having connection with one another, and maybe getting away from those devices. That's such a relevant topic at the moment. And I think it's one of those things where I think, as you were saying earlier for yourself, if you have that contact when you're little, it then stays with you for life. And so I think it's such an important project.
Absolutely. And it is, no matter who you are, what background you come from, if you going down to the pond to feed the ducks with your nan is the type of contact that you've got, great. Or if it's walking up a mountain or camping, it can be as little or as much as possible. But I do, as you say, I do feel that children have to have that direct contact, because otherwise why would they care about it in the future if they don't understand it? And I think there's a study a while ago saying that children know more about the trees in the Amazon rainforest than they do in their back garden. And I think there's a book, Robert Macfarlane, I think it's called Lost Words, and it's a beautiful big book, and it's these words which are being lost from the dictionary. And I think things like blackbird and blueberry or blackberry are in there, and they're just words that children don't associate with anything anymore, apart from a BlackBerry phone, maybe.
Yes, that's when it gets a bit depressing, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that links in neatly with the podcast, which you've got, which is Through the Trees, and that's something that you've recently started, isn't it?
Yeah, so in January, I decided that lockdown wasn't really going anywhere, and I still wanted to be able to talk about nature, even if I couldn't go out filming, because we had to all obviously stay at home. And so I got in contact with a variety of different people, and we spoke about one episode about forest schools, another about the misrepresentation of animals like snakes and sharks. Another was with Debbie. We've put her to good use over lockdown, haven't we? And so I've just really wanted to share some more stories. And on my Instagram, there's a lot of people saying, that they wanted to know more about ancient woodland, what makes a healthy woodland, and what they can do to help the wildlife in their garden. Because I was talking to Mike from the British Trust for Ornithology, and he said that something like a third of the UK space, or a third of English land is gardens. And if we can make our gardens as wildlife friendly as possible, then, well, we all should be doing it, really. We need to, because it's such a large amount of space.
No, that's a really staggering fact. I'm not sure with my gardening skills. I think probably I do make them wildlife friendly. It's not particularly by any deliberate decision on my part, but more that I'm a bit lazy, I think. But
well, that's good. That's good, because the wildlife doesn't like neat, tidy grass or small areas. It needs big old wild areas of overgrown bushes and ponds and all sorts. So
well, they've come to the right garden in my case. Oh, that's fantastic. And we'll put a link through to to your podcast, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of content there for people to listen to. I have to say, Holly, you're much more prolific than I am. I always struggle to get our episodes out. So if you're looking for more content, then do head across to Holly's. I guess the final question really is, you talked earlier on about your own personal passion, and you've obviously been to hundreds of places around the country, beautiful places. And this is maybe the most difficult question in this interview. I always ask recently our guests as to their personal favourite. Have you been able to narrow it down, Holly?
Well, I was thinking about it, and it is very difficult. I obviously, as you probably guessed by now, love the Lake District. I love Langdale. I love it around Coniston. My partner lived in Ambleside for a while, and I love Ambleside, and I cannot wait to go back and get some Rocky Road. There's a really, really good. I'm telling all my secrets now.
I was going to say, you're going to have to name it now.
Never has enough. It is amazing. So I do love the lakes, but also I really like Pembrokeshire and around Marloes Peninsula. I think I've had some really nice days walking around there, but it's so difficult. They are probably my favourite, but every memory, I make all these different memories everywhere. So it's not necessarily just the location that I enjoy going to. It's who I'm with or who I'm not with. I might be on my own. And yeah, it's just every single trip is different.
Well, that's fantastic. And that's the great thing, isn't it? You have personal favourites, but there's so much to explore just in this country. There's new places to discover, or even the same place with someone different or a different time of year. There's just so much to discover. So, well, I'm appreciating you narrowing it down to that one or two. I know it must be difficult for you. Whereabouts are you at the moment, Holly, in the country?
So I am actually in Princess Risborough in Buckinghamshire, just on the Chilterns. I've been filming in the Chilterns for the Camping and Caravanning Club I've put together this video on what to take walking. And so I'm still here, and I'm heading up to Sheffield to do some filming later this week for Sheffield Council, and that's again accessible walks and city walks and just getting more people outdoors.
Oh, it sounds fantastic. And the Chilterns again is a beautiful area. I grew up, my very young childhood was spent on the edge of the Chilterns, so that's a beautiful part of the world as well. Well, thank you ever so much for joining us, Holly. I'm sure we could have talked for ages. We'll make sure we have links so that people can watch that documentary, explore the woods, and also see some of the other beautiful videos that you make. So keep on making those videos, giving us that to be able to give us that taste of the outside. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Well, that's all we've got time for in this episode. But don't forget, you can keep the conversation going on our social media. We're at CM Southwest on Twitter and at Countryside Mobility on Facebook. If you'd like to find out a bit more about Countryside Mobility and where you can hire one of our all-terrain scooters, then go to countrysidemobility.org. And don't forget, start snapping, ready for the I Love My Garden competition, which will go live in June. We'll tell you more about that in the next episode, as well as our normal feast of outdoor adventures. Until then, stay safe and keep exploring.